gives me a good idea. My name is Hector Garcia, and I'm doing these webinars in collaboration with ChatGPT. Today's table of contents, I'll introduce myself real quick. We'll talk about the series that is in ChatGPT. Then I'll get into why ChatGPT, specifically why ChatGPT, the alternatives to ChatGPT. We're going to be focusing on ChatGPT, but there's, of course, so many alternatives out there. We'll talk about something called ChatBot Arena, which is really, really neat. And then we'll go through some basic navigational skills, full walkthrough, and then we get into a little bit more sort of, not advanced, but a little bit more sort of medium skill features like the multimodal features, and then we're going to talk about custom GPTs, which are really, really important as well. By myself, I'm a CPA. I practice in South Florida. I've had bookkeeping and tax practice since 2009. I'm also an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor. I was actually named Partner of the Year in 2023. I have a YouTube channel. Link is on the chat, on the slides. I'm the founder of Right Tool for QuickBooks Online, and I'm the host of REFRAME 2025 conference. There's my email. If anything I don't cover or anything was left unclear, please email me and I'll do my best to answer you. If you want to join me in person, I'm going to be in Miami at the REFRAME 2025 event. It's a 2.5-day transformational event called Pricing with Confidence. It's all about accounting professionals learning how to create value for the customers, how to build build confidence to price high or price what you're worth, and then build pricing packages, fixed pricing so you can get out of the hourly billing machine. And you'll walk out transformed. You'll walk out with a very, very important skill, which is how to price your services as a professional. It will be held in the Los Coral Gables, November 2nd to the 4th. Ticket price is $2,000. Max attendees is 150. We sold 150 to date. So we will sell out just like we've done in the past years. We have keynote speakers like Ron Baker, Trish Bowers, and Blair Enns who will blow your mind. So go to reframe2025.com if you're interested. If you want to join me in November in Miami, I'll be there and we will all learn how to price with confidence. Why is ChatGPT so popular? Well, first of all, probably the most significant reason is they were first to market. So whenever we think of artificial intelligence, we think of ChatGPT almost immediately because basically they created the retail version of ChatGPT. Like they were the first to give everybody access to really, really powerful chatbots. Today has over 100 million users. There are free versions, there are paid versions. It's multimodal. It can do web search. It can do Canvas, which is collaborative writing, which we're going to cover all this. It can interpret images. So you can upload an image and say, hey, transcribe this, or what is this, or that sort of thing. It can read PDFs. It can analyze spreadsheets. It can generate images. It can generate code. So if you build apps or if you're a developer, it can build code. It can do advanced reasoning. So now when we get into the paid versions, it can do advanced reasoning, which means it almost thinks like a human in terms of chain of thought before it gives you an answer. It could also build custom GPTs where you upload custom data to it, and then it chats with you, but with that custom data or that custom context. That's really powerful too out of the paid versions. And then the Pro edition, which is a $200 a month edition, can do something called deep research, which basically you tell it, do this, and then a couple of maybe 20, 30 minutes later, it actually comes back with a really deeply researched answer. So it's like you give it a task and it kind of does it on its own, kind of like giving a task to an intern, and then it comes back. That's what deep research is. It can also generate videos. The $200 a month edition can generate videos, and it also has a really exciting new feature called the Operator Agent, which basically you give it a task and it opens up its own web browser and it does its own things. And also the API, which is how third-party apps connect to ChatGPT or OpenAI to manipulate their own data. So like whenever you look at any accounting application, tax software, accounting software, data analysis software, CRM software, whatever it is, anytime you see something that says that it does AI or has artificial intelligence built in, there's a 95% chance that they're actually talking to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is producing all the answers for them. And that's what the API is. It's a way for third-party apps to connect to the AI and do things. And it's very low cost. Depending on the model, it could be as low as $1, even sometimes even less, to $15 per million words. So imagine, how cheap it is to exchange so much information through artificial intelligence. This is something that would have cost, thousands of dollars 5 years ago, and 5 years from now, this will be cents per millions of words. So like what happens, the cost of compute is going down. A lot of data centers are being created in the States and in China and in many places. So it's lowering the cost of compute. Of course, it's increasing the demand for electricity. That's a different conversation. But the cost of compute or computing power is going down deeply. Okay. All right. So let's talk about alternatives to ChatGPT. So in the US, we have Claude, Google Gemini, Grok 3, and Microsoft Copilot. All four of those have free editions and paid editions. There's also Facebook Meta, which is only free, by the way. There's no paid version of Facebook Meta. And then there's Perplexity that has multiple models. So Perplexity can use ChatGPT, it could also use Claude, could also use Gemini. Perplexity is one of the really exciting ones because it actually allows you to pick and choose which of the models you want to use. There's also two really big models out of China. One is called DeepSeek, and the other one's called Qwen. Both of those made news recently because of how cheap they are, sometimes free. And they compare them against the paid US models. Some compare it against the $200 a month version of ChatGPT, and they give you similar results. But again, you would have to determine whether or not you feel safe entering personal identifiable data into a chatbot that's outside of the United States. That's something that you have to think through. Now, this little link in the bottom called the Chatbot Arena, I'm actually going to click on that and show you that. So this is a really, really cool website, has existed for a couple of years, and it allows you to do two things. So before we get into ChatGPT, I kind of want to lay the land in terms of that there's a lot more things than ChatGPT. There's two really cool things you can do in here. One is you can test out specific models and compare them one against each other. And then you rate them and you say, hey, this one's better than the other. So for example, if I wanted to ask a very specific question, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So I want to ask a specific question like what Trump 2017 tax cuts are expiring or something like that. Are expiring. You ask a accounting question, a tax question, whatever. And then you're going to get two random models side by side give you their version of the answer. And the purpose of the LLM Arena is for users to rate the better model. So after you're done, you read model A and you read model B, and then you get to choose which one you like better. Maybe the type of the answer, maybe the accuracy of the answer, whatever it is. You come down here in the bottom and you say, I think model A is better. And essentially it tells you, okay, model A was Gemma 2B IT, and model 2 was Mistral Large. Now, what does that mean? Well, what that means is after thousands and thousands and thousands of users, human users, rate it, you go here into the leaderboard and you can actually see all of the chatbots. This is the entire market of chatbots. So we have this one here called Chocolate. This is Grok. This is XAI, Elon Musk's company. Gemini here, this is Google. Gemini is Google, ChatGPT is OpenAI, DeepSeek, and then you see how they rank. Now, don't be fooled by whatever ranking you see today. Next week, all these rankings move because in this world, this stuff moves really, really, really quick. So it moves really, really fast. So like just because you see right now that Grok 3 is the best rated one, doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be like that next week. Like I've seen ChatGPT be in the top. I've seen DeepSeek be in the top. I've seen Gemini, which is Google's model, be in the top. I've seen Llama be in the top. So this stuff moves up and down, but it's a really good reference point. And also what I love about this is it keeps you on your toes in terms of what's out there. Okay, so it forces you to kind of research all of these things, and you can click on any of them and it sends you straight into whatever document has been published or whatever direct access to those models have been published with each of the chatbots. Okay, so I think as a starting point, the LLM Arena is really, really informational. Okay, so that's just to give you a general idea. Let's jump straight into ChatGPT. Now, I'm going to jump straight into the product. I'm going to quickly just go through the slides to show you that the purpose of the slides is so you have a take home, something you can print. So then when you're working on it on your own, you have a cheat sheet. So if you go through all the slides, basically every single button inside ChatGPT, I identify what it does. Okay, and I'm not gonna go through the slides in the presentation. I'm gonna do everything inside the product. But the idea of having the slides in there is that you have the closest thing to a reference guide or a book or something that you can reference as you play with it on your own. All right, so let's go straight into ChatGPT. I went to chatgpt.com. Okay, I am not logged in. As you can see on the top, there's a login button. So when you go into chatgpt.com, it will ask you to log in. If you don't log in, you have the option to click on. Actually, I'll log out. I'll get out and come back in so you can see if it jumps on me. So it will ask you to log in. If you click on try it first, it skips the whole login process. Now the challenge with that is a lot of the features are not going to work until you log in. You can log into a free account or you can log into a paid account. So here's an example. I can come in here and ask a simple question. And for the sake of simplicity, instead of typing, I'm actually going to use my voice to text feature that I have built into my Mac. PCs have that too. I won't tell you exactly where to go, but you can search that. So you're going to see me talking and it'll start typing automatically. So you're not watching me type. So which Trump tax cuts from 2017 are set to expire? Okay. And then I'm going to hit send on that. So it's going to do the search. Now you'll notice that it said searching the web. You have the option to enable or disable web search. When you have web search enabled, it will go and pick information from current websites, right? So for example, here it says the individual income tax rates are set to expire. And there's a little link here where you can go straight into the source. Now, does this mean that this is an authoritative source, official source? No, it's just searching the web, right? As we know, the web could be wrong. It's a normal thing. So you see, every one of these things have a corresponding link that get you to it. Now, in this particular search, it pretty much looked at, for the most part, it looked like it just looked at one website, but here's a different website. And then in the bottom, you get all the sources. So you can see where this is source. Now, you can ask a question that doesn't do a web search. So for example, I'm going to start a brand new chat here. And then here on the web search, I'm going to unclick on the web search. I'm going to unclick on it. And then I'm going to ask a question that is really important for you to ask every single chatbot to give you context in terms of how old the data is. So the question to ask, what is your knowledge cutoff date? So when you ask what is your knowledge cutoff date, it will actually answer back saying, okay, my knowledge cutoff date is September 2021. So what this means is that if I don't enable web search, the context will be limited to September 2021. So if I disable web search, and sometimes it enables itself automatically, and I ask who died in February of 2025, and I hit send, it has to do you notice here, it has to do a web search. So it has to do a web search in order to get that information. So if you have web search disabled, or if it's not forcing itself to do a web search, it won't give you this type of information. So that's a really important piece of context. Now I'm going to start over, and a lot of people ask, Hector, what's the difference between doing this and doing a Google search? Well, if I go to Google and I type and I search the same thing, and I say what Trump tax cuts from 2017 are set to expire, and I search that, I get random videos, I get multiple specific websites, right? And then I have to click on each of the websites to get the information. Whereas if I'm in ChatGPT, I just get the data that I want, okay? So I'm going to go a little bit deeper, and I'm going to ask a similar question. Okay. I need to write a quick article for LinkedIn for my clients, I am a CPA, and basically I want to write something that lets people know what to expect after 2025 when the Trump tax cuts expire. So this is a lot different than doing a Google search, because now you're actually having it create content for you, right? So it's very it'll be very very different. Now in this particular case, I don't know if you noticed, but it didn't say search in the web. So because it didn't say search in the web, this information actually came from general knowledge, which is fine because the Trump tax cuts or the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act were in 2017 and the knowledge cutoff is 2021. Okay, so that's a little bit different, right? So here's your article that it pre-wrote for you, and then of course you want to, before you publish something, you want to double check this. Now, if I wanted to do a web search, I want to click on search, and I'm going to add additional information. Modify the article so it actually contains official sources. So anything that's the IRS or Treasury or the White House, nothing that's a random website where you can have an opinion. So the same article, I put web search and I give it a little bit more, right, context, right? And I said, add some sources. So like you see the same article slightly modified, and then you see sources here. Now, I guess we have to figure out whether Tax Foundation is a credible source or not. I mean, that's a little bit contextual, of course. So it really up to you to decide that. Like I actually told it only IRS, Treasury, or White House, right? So I'm not sure why it didn't follow that instructions. But here, this one did another tax foundation. This one did U.S. Department of Treasury. Okay, that's great. Here it did another tax foundation. So I can actually go back and say, let's do only IRS or Treasury website sources, please. People ask me all the time, Hector, why did you say please? You don't have to say please, by the way. I guess I was just taught that way, right? Because you actually don't have to say please. Okay, so here you go. So here's a fix where it grabbed the article and is only using U.S. Department of Treasury links and IRS as sources. So this time it did pay attention and it wrote the article for me. Okay, and there's also some additional recent discussions added, but it didn't add it as the sources for that. So I think it's significantly different than just doing a Google search. So I know I had a couple of people asking me, what's the difference between ChatGPT and a Google search? Hopefully that answered your question. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. So that gives you the first idea into the things that you can do. Right here at the bottom, you can attach documents. Notice that it says, try more advanced features. You must be logged in. That's where you have to create an account. So I'm going to log in, and I'm going to log into my free account. I have both a free account and a paid account, right? So we'll start with the free account so you kind of see what the free account does, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the additional features you get with the paid account. So some of the things I like, once you log in, you have here in the top, it tells you which of the models that you're using. So the free account doesn't let you choose the model. Model is levels of intelligence. It's kind of the way that OpenAI it's framing it. So like there will be a level of intelligence that uses more computers or more sophisticated programming, and then models of intelligence are really meant to be fast and not necessarily have to stop and do some reasoning. You will see a button called Reason, or you might see something called a reasoning model or something like that. And the reasoning model takes a little bit longer to answer. Okay, and the reason why it does that is because it has to, and I'm using the wrong term here, it has to think a little bit before it answers. So for example, if I don't use a reasoning model and I don't default it to web search, I can write something like, again, I'm going to stay within the tax theme. I can say, what are potential tax cuts that we are expecting to see with the current administration in the US? Now, that's a speculative question, right? Like there's no specific answer to this, right? So this is going to search the web, and then it's going to look at multiple sources and see what are the proposals are out there. So it looked at routers and sees, okay, a U.S. Senate has a border security that doesn't have Trump tax cuts. There's some other the same article here. some expiring provisions. Like, so it actually looks at all the documentations and all the websites to see what could be contextual for this article, and then you got all the sources there. But then I can actually turn this into a more reasoning type of question, which might take a little bit longer to answer. So I'm going to say, analyze all the campaign promises from the Trump campaign and try to guess what will be likely to be a potential tax cut that's politically expedient. Okay. Expedient. Okay. So we're going a little bit more, we're doing a little bit more opinion type stuff. So it's going to require a lot more than just reading stuff. Like I said, politically expedient. So it actually has to analyze, okay, what was said in the campaigns, right? And it's going through that. And based on that, it's going to give me a totally different answer. It's going to say something like no tax on tips or whatever other crazy stuff that candidate Trump may have said about that, what he's going to do. But again, all speculative. And it's fine. That's what I asked it to do, right? Like ChatGPT doesn't always need to be something that's 100% factual. Like I use ChatGPT to think through things all the time. Like our clients, like I'm as a tax consultant, our clients don't always come with facts. They don't say, hey, fact this, fact that. I read this law. What do you think about that? Sometimes they're like, hey, it feels like this should be a tax deduction. Or I understand that because XYZ person said this, it should be a tax deduction. You can use ChatGPT to brainstorm that type of stuff all the time, which equips you better to answer. It gives you a way of thinking or rethinking prior to having a conversation with a client. So I actually like that quite a bit. So here it says, it thought for 18 seconds. If you click on this little expansion, it actually shows you what is thinking. Like all this stuff is how ChatGPT thought about answering before just answering. So instead of just trying to get the right answer, it actually went through and analyzed multiple moving parts. And notice that I said no tax on tips. It actually picked that up, like, because that was I remember that being pretty loud in the campaign promise. So here we go. Trump campaign proposals included, for example, no tax on tips. And here's a voter impact. So service industry workers, restaurant, bartenders, etc. Directly see a boost. Okay, perfect. Simplicity in message. I agree. Incredibly simple message, right? Compared to complex measures like, stuff with Social Security benefits, tip tax cut is very straightforward. The voters understand it. I said politically expedient, right? So repeated campaign emphases, right? And then we have caveat and context, right? So exactly what I was predicting it would say, which is great. So now you start thinking that you can use ChatGPT as a reasoning model. Okay, so there's another reasoning model that comes in is, let's say, again, we'll stay within current events and that stuff. We'll say, now that the Department of Government Efficiency is looking for ways to reduce waste, how do you think this will translate into tax cuts / potential stimulus being paid back to taxpayers? Okay, and then we'll ask that question. Okay, and then it's done reasoning. These are complicated questions. These are complications that have context. These are even complications that in a dinner party with other accountants, you're going to get all sorts of different answers. So again, you use the reasoning model and it reasons pretty fast. It's at 9 seconds. It goes in there and gives you, the answer. So here's a direct rebate versus dividend. So some proposals suggest that a portion of the recovered funds should be a doji dividend. So for example, paying a stimulus check, right, per household. I personally think that's a crazy idea, but offsetting it with extended tax cuts, that probably makes more sense, right? If you get to reduce government spending, translate that into tax cuts or use it to reduce the deficit. Also a great idea, right? Caveats to consider, and here's a whole bunch of things in there, okay? And then you could go even further and go, hey, I'm a Democratic political strategist. What messaging should I say to counter this to win the White House 4 years from now, right? So let's try that. I'm a Democratic political consultant. What counter message to this could help Democrats win the White House in 4 years. Okay, and then you'll start again reasoning, right? Counterpoint. So I'll go back and go, okay, what did Democrats say about this? Okay, it can't do that. So that's one challenge that you see with ChatGPT is ChatGPT tries to sometimes limit itself to not get too deep into politics. I'll ask why, just in case, because I'm not sure why it can't help me. Just to make sure it's not because I'm in the free version and I ran out of the tokens or whatever. So let's see if it'll give me a cohesive answer why it couldn't do that. Sometimes we don't know whether it's one or the other. Now, one thing that I want to make sure that I clarify, and I have a really good question here from Dominic, is what prevents AI from creating false content or opinion-based content, and how does the usage of that information that's maybe used to create articles or to create more content prevent the perpetuation of false information or fake news or whatever? And Dominic, this is the answer to your question is, unfortunately, I think we've crossed the threshold where there's no turning back. AI will continue to create more fake data, more false data, and we're going to have to live in a world that's going to have to be a lot more nuanced. So Dominic, I don't have a good answer for that. I absolutely don't have a good answer for that. So I apologize, but that I don't have a good answer, but that's what I think is going to happen. So as accounting professionals, I think that we should be hyper cognizant, hyper aware, educate our customers on how this stuff could create false information. And at the same time, Cindy is asking, what about plagiarism? Okay, I think it also works the other way, right? Where you can write an original article or try to write an original article based on somebody else's stuff, or you can write an original story based on somebody else's stuff. I remember I'm going to go into a new chat, right? And I'm going to say, and then I remember when ChatGPT didn't have those protections. So for example, I want to write a story about a young accountant that has magical powers, and I want his journey to be similar to Harry Potter's, copy the plot of Harry Potter and write a quick synopsis of this story. So I remember when you were able to do this, and then there was a big issue because there's potential plagiarism. So in this particular case, it didn't stop me. It actually is using the general plot from Harry Potter, and the author of Harry Potter wanted to sue OpenAI because it could use basically there's the potential of plagiarism. But I'm not sure what the solution is, but this is a real thing that exists. So something to consider as well. That could totally happen. So with web search, people can copy, with the web search feature, people can copy some of your content and try to create it as their own. Now, ChatGPT is it's not a public company yet. Microsoft owns about half. I think it's 49% that Microsoft owns. The other one is owned by a private group. Recently, Elon Musk tried to buy it for $100 billion, and they declined. But it's a company that's worth $100 billion, probably, most likely. Okay. So yeah, so that's in a nutshell. Just wanted to answer your questions live as we go through this. So a couple other things I want to discuss is, as we have all these different chats, and you saw me create different chats, you're going to have a tracking here on the left-hand side with all your live chats. Now you can go back to one of those chats. For example, I had a chat about Section 179 tax deduction a couple weeks back. I can click on that, and essentially I resume on a chat that I was working on previously. We have this U.S. tax cut proposals. That's the one that I started with. I can go back to that. So I can actually switch back and forth to any of these chats, and I always go back, and it retains the memory, so to speak, of what you were doing. So that's really, really cool. And then if any of these you don't need anymore, you can click on the three little dots and you can archive or delete. So there's a difference between archiving and deleting. So if I delete it, I will never see it again. If I archive it, it'll remove it from this list, but then I could always go back into my settings at the top right, going to settings. And then I can go into data controls. And then, is it data controls or is it, let me see if I remember exactly where it is. Oh, right here under general, sorry. So when you go under general, you're going to see all your archived chats. So you click on manage, and then every chat that you have archived, basically you can go back and bring it back to to uh, to to life. So for example, I had this boat purchase deductibility one that I started in 2023. I can bring that one back to life. Okay, bring the chat back to life, and then I can click on archive and I continue chatting with it. So archiving means you don't delete it, but you remove it from your list. Okay, let me start a new chat, and we're gonna start. I'm gonna ask it a question that contains a non sort of web searchable context, and then the other one that's web searchable context. So I'm going to start with this. Based on your general knowledge, can a small business purchase a boat and have the expenses of the boat be tax deductible for their business, comma, for some context, it's a marketing business, period. So I said based on your general knowledge. So usually when I say that, it doesn't do a web search. So when I say based on general knowledge, it won't do a web search. Okay, so here we go. And it says, yes, they can purchase and deduct the expenses, but strict rules apply. And then it goes through the answer. Now, I particularly think that this is really, really quick to say yes to a question like that, which is why generally saying something based on general knowledge is not as useful. I prefer to do a deep research type of question, which is actually worth doing, to give you this type of answer. So I'm actually going to go the complete opposite here. I'm going to log out of this. I'm going to log in into my paid account that has deep research built in. And because deep research does take some time, we'll go back and kind of see the answer to that similar question. Okay. So I'm in my paid account that contains this little option called deep research. Again, this takes a while to give you an answer. So I'm going to do a deep research and I'm going to ask a similar question. I have a small business client that's in the marketing industry, and he's insisting that he wants to buy a boat and make it tax deductible for his business. However, he's not. Hold on. He didn't understand my word. Let me do it again. I'm a CPA and I have a small business client who has a marketing company, period. He's insisting that he wants to buy a boat and make it deductible for his business, comma. I want you to research sources such as tax court decisions or official documentation from the IRS or Treasury that would support whether or not he can deduct a boat for his marketing business where the two things are not connected. One little caveat. Let me just do a period. I'm going to add with this. One little caveat, every once in a while, he will take a top client out on his boat and entertain their whole company. Okay, perfect. That's good enough. So I added a little caveat in there to give it a little bit sort of a deeper context in it on the deep research. So when I click on send on that, what it does is it's really, really cool. Before it gets started, it asks clarifying questions. So like this would be similar to like a really like high paid tax research employee where you say, hey, go research this. And that person would go, instinctually, you may not have given me all the information that I need. Therefore, give me a little bit more information before I go out and do some research and come back, right? So actually, I very much like that, okay? So he's asking me questions. So does your client plan to claim boat expenses as a business asset for depreciation or an expense under entertainment and meal? So I'll answer this. Okay, so I'll answer this and I'll say, actually, sorry about that. The way I answered it is I selected the text and then I clicked on the two little dots there, the quotes, and I answered that directly. So I'm going to say, he wants to deduct the whole thing, comma, so it would have to be fully depreciated. Okay, so I'll start answering that. Okay, so that's kind of the first question, and then it's asking me for the rest of the questions. So will the boat be owned by a business entity or by the owner? He's trying to buy it under the business. There we go. So we'll answer that. So we're going through all the questions. We're answering each of them before he goes out and does his research. Is he arguing that the boat is necessary for generating income? He wants to make whatever argument necessary to actually make it deductible. Okay, and again, I'm just being realistic here, trying to be half technical, half colloquial, right? And the last one is, does the client plan to argue that both necessary for generating income, such as promotional events, client outreach? I'm going to say mostly his excuse is that he will take out clients on the boat. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I gave it all the information that it needed. Now this thing is going to go out and research. And you're going to see it here where it says start research. And this will take sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. There's actually there's no specific guideline in terms of how long this will take. So you can sit there and wait, or we can go out and teach you something else, which is what I'll do. We'll kind of leave this chat doing its thing, and then we'll go back. It'll actually notify me when it's done doing its deep research, and it'll go back and give me a really deeply researched answer. Okay, so we'll let it do its thing. Actually, it doesn't matter that if I leave, I can leave and go to a different chat and then come back in here and just see that it's still starting the research. If you actually click on starting research here in the right, it'll kind of show you what it's doing. So if you click on sources, it will tell you what sources it's going to look at. And again, it's compiling for now. If you go to activity, you'll see exactly what it's thinking through. So I'm exciting IRS guidelines, treasury regulations, tax court cases to explore deductibility. Okay, I'm considering a range of sources, including et cetera, et cetera. Here's tax notes. I don't know what that is, but I assume it's useful stuff. I'm thinking about tax notes. Okay, okay, and then I'm reflecting research activity. I'm looking at this particular case. So you actually get to see everything that it's doing. It hasn't given me the answer yet, but you get to see exactly what it's searching. So I'll go back and figure out, hey, what should I be looking at? What should I be reading to put together my answer? And then here in the 5 sources, you see all the websites that it's going through to come up with these sources. Again, we'll come back and wait for that answer to be completely done. It's maybe like 20, maybe 15, 20% done at this point. So we'll go back and check that out. So let's start a new chat, and we'll talk about something else, and we'll go back to this. Now I'm going to answer some of the live questions that are here in the chat. So again, if you have questions, just ask them, and I'll try to fit them in. So can you save these searches? So yeah, I guess that's what I meant. You save the chats. So every chat's going to have its own little searches. Okay. How can you verify the source of information? I think I showed that. Basically, you'll see where you got it from, but that's only when you do a web search or a deep search. If you ask a question that says to the best of your knowledge, you will never be able to know where you got that information from, because the ChatGPT's knowledge is its internal training. Okay. So again, I'll ask another question here. What is your knowledge cutoff date? Cutoff. Okay. So I'll ask it one more time. It will tell me what my knowledge cutoff date. Now you'll see that in the paid version of ChatGPT, the knowledge cutoff date is June 2024. So in the free version, it's September 2021. On the paid edition, it uses a newer. That means because it's in a newer model, it's in a more advanced model. So consider that very much when deciding whether or not you want to be in a free version or in a paid version. This deep research button, that's only available in the highest version. This is the $200 a month version, okay? So consider that, right? Because we started with the free version and we jumped straight into the $200 a month version that contains deep research. That's really the only difference between the $20, $30 edition, which is the one I recommend everybody get in, is if you want to do that deep research stuff, then you get into the $200 a month version. Okay, these chats are not publicly available for anybody to see, but you can share them. So for example, let's do a new chat here, and then I'm going to do a search, and then I'm going to say, show me a list of the latest news regarding potential implications to the US tax code system. That's good enough. Okay, and then we'll do a search. and then it will search the web, right? It will search the web. It will give me an answer. So we'll wait for that. So it did do a search, right? So we got proposed changes to the cruise line taxation. And here's the link, Financial Times. Here's IRS releases 2025 brackets. Here's this is not as new, but it's there, right? Potential expiring tax cuts, Investopedia, international tax disputes, routers, tax benefits for wealthy appointees, Politico, and then here we have everything else. So I can actually grab this chat. I can click on the top right and click on share. So once I click on share, there is a little button here that says create link. So when I click on create link, okay, it will copy the link, and now I have two options. One of it is make this chat discoverable. If I click on this, then people can find this chat. So you're making it public for anyone to see the conversations you're having with ChatGPT. If I don't make it discoverable, then I just copy the link and then I share the link privately via email or text or DM with someone. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna go in the chat and I'm gonna paste this link. So you need to be on a paid version of ChatGPT. $20, $30 one works. You can actually go into the chat of the live webinar and see that link that I put in there, and you can actually do that. And I'll just go into the slides as well, and I'll come in here in one of these here, and I'll put shared chat, and I'll put it in the slides too. So if you're looking at the live slides, you can see that on slide 30 in this case, I have a link there. So you can either pull it up from the live slides or pull it up from the live chat that we're having here. And then you can go in it and you can see and you can access this exact same chat. Okay, so that's kind of the point, that it is shareable, right? So I'm going to go into an incognito window here and paste it. And then and here we go. So this is an incognito page. So I'm just showing you that as long as I have this URL that I shared, you can go back and see somebody else's chat. So that's actually extremely useful. And we're using ChatGPT only, but Claude has actually a much, much better sharing system. But again, outside the scope of this webinar. Let's go back to the boat deductible deep research. Okay, it's almost done here. It's still doing its search. Again, this is the deep research. Is a $200 a month version of ChatGPT that can do that. But we're gonna see how this gives you a really, really good answer. Let's start a new one. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you something called Canvas. Canvas is actually one of my favorite features in ChatGPT, which is a collaborative writing system. So it basically, you tell it write this, but then you can do you can edit the document live. So it's sort of like having ChatGPT inside Word, Microsoft Word, or something like that. Okay. So I'm gonna go into Canvas here, and I'm gonna click Canvas. Okay. You could also just type in Canvas XYZ. So whatever you want to do, you can do that. So I can say in Canvas and then tell it its instructions, or I can click on this little drop down and click Canvas. And then I can say, help me write an engagement letter for a flat fee bookkeeping cleanup engagement where the customer pays 50% upfront and 50% upon completion. It must contain a couple of the following details. One, we will not be making any payments, calling any vendors, or calling any customers as part of this engagement, comma. We will not be accessing bank accounts or credit cards online, so we don't want any passwords or anything like that, comma. The customer is required to send us all the information. We're talking about bank statements, receipts, bills, invoices, everything that's relevant, and we cannot get started before they give us all the information, period. We will only work in their live QuickBooks desktop file that they gave us. We will keep a copy for our records, but we will give the customer a final copy. Once the customer gets his final copy, the engagement will be completed, and we will not do any additional work after that. If the customer wants us to go back and modify something, it it would be a separate charge, period. This engagement will have 3 different options for prices. $2,500 and we'll have it done in 2 months, $3,500 and we'll get it done in 1 month, or $6,800 and we'll get it done within 14 days of getting all the documents, period. We will do the work in cash basis only, but we will make high-level adjustments to accounts receivable, accounts payable, inventory, and other deferrals, period. As part of this, we will reconcile banks, reconcile credit cards, all based on information given to us. Any additional balances that we don't have source documents for, we have to believe that the customer is giving us the right information, and we have to base it on that, period. Okay, so that's it. So I basically freestyle wrote random stuff into it, right? Like I just, all my ideas, right? Without having to stop and think and put, I did some commas and periods and that sort of thing. And then it starts building it for me. So you see here on the left-hand side, here's the chat. So it basically splits, like it's like a, it's a split screen. So on the left chat, you can continue to do chat, but on the right side, this is the document, right? So this is an actual, almost like a Word document that gets typed on the fly, right? And everything is being built for me. Notice that all this information has to be pre-built, right? So I'll just type that in there. Let's update. My company name is called Garcia and Company CPA. My address is 111 Main Street, Miami, Florida, 33330. My email is hector@garciacpa.com. My phone number is 954-414-1524. Let's use today's dates. My client's name is Lopez Marketing Inc., and they're located in 802 Main Street, Miami, Florida, 33333. Okay, so I just basically typed in the chat, and based on what I typed, it's gonna go back into the document and pre-fill all the information that was left there as a peg holder. So that's actually really, really cool. And it starts doing all that stuff for me, right? It starts organizing it for me. Like sometimes I'll make a mistake, and you can fix it on the fly. Like for example, it didn't do it didn't fix the client name, so I'll just copy this here. And I'll type here, his name is Michael Lopez. He's the CEO. Okay, and then I'll hit send on that. Again, it's a combination of using the chat and having ChatGPT fix things for me on the fly, right? Okay, so here's the engagement letter. So thank you for engaging Garcia and Company CPA to assist. Here's the scope of services. So it did a really, really clean engagement letter for me. The engagement letter does not include, right, making payments, accessing bank and credit cards, any work beyond agreed upon deliverables, any tax preparation or compliance work. I actually didn't even mention this. It understood within the context about that. Okay, and actually I can actually select any of these things, and I can click on Ask ChatGPT and say, go into detail on this to make sure that it's not unclear. The word compliance doesn't mean a lot to people. So go into detail about all the potential tax things and compliance things that the customer might ask for that's not included. Okay, so I can select a particular piece and just add what I want to change, send that, and then I'll go in there and I'll reason through that, and then it's going to add a couple of bullet points or clarify for me or expand it for me. So this say is that any tax preparation not limited to state, local, payroll tax filings, sales tax filings, estimated tax calculations. Additional to this, it doesn't cover 1099s, et cetera, et cetera. So pretty awesome. Then client responsibilities, right? You have to provide me all of these documents. Understand that the work cannot begin until I get these documents. Verify and confirm the information is accurate. Okay, and then here's the fees and the terms of agreements that I laid out. And then a couple of all the other stuff, right? I can add one more thing I'm gonna say for these three, come up with clever names that are contextual to the business that I'm doing the work with and the business that we will be doing, and give the services like nifty names. Okay, so we'll send that. And basically, it'll just go in there and modify that piece of the text. That's why Canvas is really cool, because it's collaborative, right? So it starts typing for you, and then you pick and choose the areas that you want to change. So I'm gonna scroll down to, let's let it do its thing, and it gave it its name. So it's steady hand cleanup, Swift Books refresh, Express Ledger rescue. That's pretty cool. It just gives it a couple of really cool names, right? And I can even go beyond that and have it get a little bit more creative. So I'll wait until it finishes editing, which should be almost done, and then we'll do one more edit to this, and then we'll do another example. So thank you to that person that suggested the engagement letter. That's usually a really fun one to do. Here, I'm gonna go in here and select. This being the premium service, think of some additional add-ons of additional value add that we can give that encourages someone to pick this large option. Okay, so we're going to have it just to grab that piece of the what that option, and maybe think through some things that could be included to maybe possibly encourage the customer to go with the highest option. Here we go. So this premium package includes additional benefits such as detailed health report, summarizing key insights, 1 hour personalized post cleanup consultation, efficiency improvements, priority email support up to 30 days after completion. So really cool. It's a combination of writing exact stuff and getting creative about things. I think it's just very, very, very useful. Okay, so we don't have any more questions about the engagement letter. This is pretty useful. Once you're done, you can click on the little copy button here in the top. Click on copy, and then you go into your favorite document building system, so Google Docs or Microsoft Word or whatever, and you come in and you paste it, and you have your engagement letter now. So I'll paste it all ready to go for you, and then that could be your sample, that could be your starting point, and then you could always go back and paste that into ChatGPT and say, hey, the company name is different now, or there's a different pricing range or a different scope, and you can have it modify that stuff for you without you having to manually go in there and change all those things. So it's really neat. Okay, all right, let's start. Let's go back to a blank chat here. We're gonna go back to our deep research. So this is the deep research exercise that we had to do. See, it's pretty long, pretty detailed. And then I'm gonna go up here. It's a lot of stuff. So it took 7 minutes to do the deep research. If I click on that, I get to see all that I thought about, and I get to see all the sources. So it's a deep Google search, and it went and looked for multiple tax court cases to come up with its conclusion. So I'm not gonna read this for you because that's pretty long, but deducting a tax bill for a business expense for a client, and here goes through all the different the fact that it's disallowed, and then some tax code areas here, and then here's some key regulations, and then again some references to tax code, and then let's see if it talks about, here's some section 274. So it's a lot of cool things in here. I will grab this whole text. I'm gonna grab this whole text. I'm gonna go down here, grab this whole text here. Okay, I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna start a new chat. I'm gonna paste this, and then I'm gonna say, based on this research, what is a quick email I could write to my customer about his question on deducting a boat for his marketing business. That's why I hate typing. I prefer talking to it. But so I basically grabbed the entire deep research. I pasted it in a brand new chat, and then asked it at the end to write a quick email for me. So here's the email. Dear client, I reviewed IRS guidelines, tax rulings, Treasury regulations regarding the potential deductibility of your boat. Here's a quick summary. Full depreciation not permitted. The IRS allows full depreciation for boats, primarily used for entertainment purposes, as the boats consider entertainment facilities. This means that depreciation expenses are not deductible. Entertaining expense rule. Since the boat is primarily used to entertain clients, the costs are classified as entertainment expenses, which are generally not deductible. This includes any operation or depreciation expenses, even if the boat is used for business purposes. Exceptions. There are limited exceptions, such as using the boat legitimately for business purposes, not primarily for entertainment. However, these exceptions are difficult to meet and would require strong documentation, blah, blah, blah. So you could grab this entire deep research document. So I'll go back into my deep research document, and I can go and copy this, right? Where's my copy button? Go back into copy here. So imagine copying this, going into a Word document, okay, creating a new document, pasting the deep research, right? Here's 15 pages of deep research. I could save this, save this, save it as a PDF or whatever. So I can save it as a PDF. Going to my, go back into ChatGPT here, going to my email answer, okay, going to my Gmail, right? All right, going to my Gmail and compose an email, right? So, dear Mr. Lopez, I reviewed your documentation, attach, take that document, I can put here, attached is our firm's research in the subject matter. So imagine a world where you can answer those long, complex questions doing a deep research type of work, and you did it within minutes. Yes, you are paying $200 a month for ChatGPT, but like, how tangible is this? Like, how realistic is this that we can do that? Now, should you read the document first? Absolutely. I'm not espousing that you should just assume that this is all accurate. But if you know a little bit about tax, or if you're a tax professional, you could read all this and make sense of it. It has all the links to all the sources. So you can go back and take a look at all the sources and see if that's okay. But it really saved your time. This type of stuff you wouldn't get in a Google search. So again, the deep research is only available in the $200 a month version. The $20 a month version doesn't have deep research yet, okay? So when I say yet, it's because I say that because there's another company called DeepSeek, this one, DeepSeek, that has that's free, that's based on China, that does a deep think, which does kind of this type of research, and this is free. So ChatGPT is now has to compete with this somehow. So that's something to think about too. And there's also Perplexity. So you go to perplexity.ai, and Perplexity with the Pro Edition, which is only $20 a month, you can do deep research and you can ask it a similar question. So let me go back into ChatGPT, and then go again. I wanted to stay solely on ChatGPT here, but I wanted to just give you some context, because you will see potentially some competing apps start getting into this. So we got Perplexity, which is $20 a month, which can do deep research, and it will give you a similar answer. Now, again, OpenAI is the leader. Is the one that always comes out with the new features first, and everybody else sort of follows. But you could try doing deep research on Perplexity as well, and it's really, really powerful. Again, I'm going back to ChatGPT, but you got DeepSeek and you got Perplexity. Both of these competitors to ChatGPT are providing this at a very, very low price. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. So on the deep research, again, you could copy and paste this into a brand new chat and say, hey, remove all the links, or put the links at the end. Put all the sources at the end. So you can all these sources are optional. It's just like the deep research by default gives you, interlaces all the links and external sources in it, but you can have it remove all that if you wanted to. So good question, Alisa. Thanks for asking. Okay, all right, let's go back into ChatGPT one more time and let's talk about other features. So hopefully this is giving you, a lot of food for thought. I put in the Q&A so far, or in the chat, whatever. Which of these have given you food for thought? Which of these have opened your eyes to seeing the potential of ChatGPT? I would love to know and comment on that. But if you have any more questions, I will answer those. Okay. And some person says, hey, you should stay away from politics. The reason why I did, Shirley, the reason why I did politics is because politics is the most nuanced thing that you could talk about. And we're using the political concepts to explain that it has to go out, like it doesn't have its own opinion per se. It has to go out and check multiple sources, right? Because you cannot build into a reasonable model, any bias, or some people argue that there is some bias, but specifically the reason for that is because it has to go out and research multiple things and come up with a conclusion based on all the other information that it comes up with. So that's why I use politics. It wasn't to have any opinion or so. It was literally mostly so it can so you can see it, think through multiple sources of information that could be biased. So it's trying to unbias biased information. I guess that's the reason why I was doing some politics, Shirley. So thank you for calling it out, because obviously this is not about having a political opinion. It's about seeing what ChatGPT thinks about all this, and again, whether it's useful or not, that's going to be up to you to determine, right? Yeah. And yeah, somebody says you cannot talk about tax law without talking politics. Exactly, because tax law that's set in stone, it's law, but tax law that's being discussed is political, right? So that's why I love the fact that you could use nuanced conversations like that. And as a matter of fact, I actually wouldn't even like a chat model that would tell me, oh, I can't talk about politics because politics becomes policy, right? So that's why it's important to work with a chat model that is comfortable with grabbing all these nuances and then giving you more information. Again, this is not to inform you to decide one way or the other. I'm a tax professional, and I know that politics becomes policy, and most of the reasons why a particular tax law gets passed or not is for the optics, right? It's for the optics that, I helped my contingency, I helped the people that voted for me, et cetera, et cetera. Obama did it, Biden did it, Trump did it. All the presidents will do that. All the governments will do that. Okay, let's talk about other things. Let's change topics a little bit, and let's talk about the multimodal. So multimodal is being able to upload data into it and have it do things. So let's do an example here. I'm going to pull up this image. So imagine a customer came to you with a handwritten note, which kind of looks like a P&L per se, for lack of a better term, right? Where the customer goes, yeah, I received this much in rents, I received this much I pay this much in expense A or expense B. You can grab these handwritten notes, whatever chicken scratch the customer gives you, and hopefully you can see it there on the screen. And I can go and upload that. Upload this. So let me upload that. So I have this screenshot, and I can say, turn this into a P&L, and I press enter. So again, I took a picture of a paper with handwritten notes, and I'm saying, turn this into a P&L. Okay. So we'll wait for it to do it. And this is the image recognition portion of ChatGPT. So we'll wait for that. Okay, so analyzing. We'll wait for that. That's okay. We'll just wait for it to do it. It'll take a little longer. And here we go. So here's the profit and loss, right? Rents received, HOA, insurance, mortgage repair, realtor commission, total expenses, net profit, right? There's some nuances here, right? Like, for example, we got property taxes for 2 years. So is that deductible for, both years? Something to think about, right? That's where the accountants have to think through that, right? We have mortgage, right? This interest only? Is this so there's obviously context to think through. So I can actually go in here and select these two and say these I'll use the text. These are the total payments of mortgage that contain both principal and interest. I want you to guesstimate how much is interest. So I'll give you a quick uh, facts about this loan. The loan was taken out about 6 years ago. It was 395,000. It was 7% APR, and this is principal and interest payment of a 30-year loan. Okay, so we'll do that, and then now we're gonna send this thing to do tons of analysis, tons of thinking, because now it's got to do a whole bunch of like really strange math, because it has to go back and go, well, if the loan was this much and the APR was this much and you're paying this much, how much of this is going to be interest versus principal? If you click on analyzing, you see that it's literally writing code. It's saying, okay, what this guy just asked me to do is to do a a time value of money calculation, right? So it's doing the whole time value of money calculation to figure out which portion is interest and which portion is okay. So I'm going to say, go back and modify the P&L so it only contains the interest portion. Okay, so we go back to the original P&L, and it'll reanalyze it, and it'll build it with only what it thinks the interest portion is. Of course, you should verify that okay, we'll do dollar signs and only 2 decimals. Okay, we'll have it clean that up so it looks a little bit cleaner. Okay, so that's an example of how you can, again, turn an image into a P&L and then have it do some deep math to figure out what is probably the mortgage interest, right? Call that mortgage interest, comma, and also for property tax, only do 1 year. Okay, so it understands that only do 1 year means cut it in half, right? So it'll do that. It'll cut that in half. And so again, just kind of harnessing the power of the combination of grabbing an image, turning it into a spreadsheet, and then working with it even deeper. This reminds me a lot of me working with my interns or my brand new employees, and me showing them how to build P&L, Schedule E's, and all that stuff from scratch. And you're kind of giving them little by little explanations. Do the math again. Remember, revenue is positive and all the expenses are negative to figure out my net profit. Okay, sometimes you got to tell it. ChatGPT is really bad at math sometimes, and you kind of have to tell it, okay, let's reset. Right? You got to do the math again, do this correctly to see what the new P&L looks like. So we'll wait for that to finish. I'm going to do one more thing. Here we go. So my new net income is, well, that's kind of crazy. Let's see. Let's go into analysis mode. So anytime you have a spreadsheet, what you can do is you can click on this little button here, expand the table, and you can do it into analysis mode. So we can do is let's delete these. I'm going to say delete these. Okay, so I just selected the rows and say delete them. I don't want them. Okay, and it knows what to do, right? And then I can say, let's do the math again. Do the end result math again on the last row, please. Again, at some point, some of you would argue, well, is this faster to do in Excel? Is it faster to do in ChatGPT? Well, I think the transcription from the image to the spreadsheet was faster in ChatGPT, but maybe this part, the mathematical portion, is faster in Excel. That's fine. You could copy this, right? You could take this information, copy it, and then we can go into our favorite. Let's go into Sheets. We'll go into Sheets, and then I can paste that there, right? Whoops, not that one. Let's go back to ChatGPT. Oh, sorry. Copying is weird here. You have to click on this little download table. Sorry about that. And then you have to download it in Excel, and then you can copy and paste into Sheets. Yeah. here we go, right? So here's the spreadsheet that it can always upload, export it as a spreadsheet. Okay. So we can go back and do, if I were preparing this as a schedule E, which lines with each of these numbers go into? Okay. So we'll have it translate this into a schedule E for you, right? So it tells you exactly what line it goes to. So rents goes into line 3, rents received. HOA fees goes into line 19. Insurance goes into line 9. Mortgage interest goes into line 12. Repairs goes into line 14. And property tax goes into line 16. Now, by you looking at this, you should start seeing the writing on the wall, where I would be able to grab the same image, right? If I have tax software that has AI built in, I could write this image. I could upload this image into tax software that can do a tax return, and I can say, fill this into my tax form automatically, right? So that's where this is heading, which is, the chatbot is a preview into what the power it is. Where this stuff becomes super, super, super practical is when they start attaching these tools to practical software, tax software, accounting software. So when QuickBooks starts getting these type of things, where you will be able to just upload a PDF of a statement and it automatically does the data entry for you, this is coming. So, which is a good segue to the next sort of multi-model option here, which is, let's say I have a PDF bank statement. So I got this bank statement in PDF. I'm going to upload this bank statement. I'm going to have it create a P&L for me based on this bank statement. Of course, that's very simplistic. Usually we don't do that with a single bank statement, but it's an example. I uploaded a bank statement for 1 month. I want you to parse out the deposits and the expenses, put them into a category, and build it as if this is a P&L for the whole month of January. Okay, so once again, this will happen, right? Where accounting software, you basically go in and say, upload the statements, and you upload bank and credit card statements. It'll parse everything out and do it for you. This will happen, right? Just be watching out for this. Now, here's the big question, which is, should I be uploading my client's personal information into ChatGPT? So I know the free edition of ChatGPT doesn't have a data protection policy, but the paid versions do. So the paid version of ChatGPT, supposedly, according to them, does not use their data to train their model. So their data is supposed to be private, safe, and secure, and they're the largest AI company in the world. Now, I don't work there, so I can't guarantee that no one's looking at this data. But according to them, if you're on the paid edition, whether it's a $20 a month, $30 a month, or the $200 a month edition, you will have that your data will be safe and secure. So it's up to you really to think through that. At the very beginning of ChatGPT, I took my actual bank statements and I sharpied out company names and account numbers, and I was testing it with scans like that. So it's something for you to think through. Now I use sort of sample data to just make sure I'm not putting my client's information, especially in the middle of a webinar. So here's an example. So I'm gonna go here and use dollar signs and proper number format with 2 decimals. Okay, so we'll have it sort of fix it, the formatting there, and then you can see sort of the quick P&L that it built for you. So you see sales revenue, you see other income, other expenses, office supplies, okay? And then I'm gonna go back into the chat mode and go, now give me a summary of every one of those categories with the specific transactions that you picked under it, just so I can verify that you picked the right category. Okay, so now we're saying, instead of give me a spreadsheet, just blow it up for me so I can see exactly what you are categorizing. And it tells you its logic, right? So there's these deposits here, which are likely income. There's this other reimbursement for 304 cents and 200 that might be other income. And then we have rent expense. So it actually read the payee it literally read the payee of the check right? So it read the payee of the check, and based on the payee name, it figured out that this was rent. Okay, and then here's another one, a debit card to to I guess Office Depot or whatever it was. And then we have $4,000 Aria Hotel, okay, categorized as travel. Verizon Wireless, categorized as telephone. Both of these ATM withdrawals categorized as miscellaneous. There's a $2,000 withdrawal likely to be a payroll or contractor payment, like who knows. And then there's a check to petty cash. So it picked petty cash as a category, which is technically not a category, but it did that, and then it built a net income, a P&L net income for me. So really, really cool. Let's do one more thing. Now give me a spreadsheet of all the transactions in a way that I can just import them into QuickBooks as a CSV. Okay, so now we'll have it basically parse out the data, and instead of analyzing it and making calculations, it will give me a flat file that I can import into QuickBooks. And again, this multi-model works I think it's both the free edition and the $20 a month edition, but I might be wrong. You don't have to be in the $200 a month edition to get the data analysis. Can you turn pictures of checks and turn them into a database of details? Yes, you can actually grab a bunch of checks, take pictures of it, and have it transcribe everything for you. Okay, just kind of trying to answer all the live questions that we have here. If I haven't answered any of your questions, go ahead and post them, and I'll post them again, and I'll answer them. So here's the spreadsheet. Not this one, but this one. Here's the spreadsheet from the bank statement. So it brought in, this is everything that it read from the bank statement. So it read some of the deposits, it read some of the transactions. So it transcribed the bank statement for me. Okay, now it's also not a perfect science, but this will work. So if you happen to have a PDF bank statement and you can't connect with the bank directly, then this is an alternative. If you can connect to the bank and you have QuickBooks Online, for example, it's actually much better to just get the raw data from the bank. But it's again, if you only have the PDF or you only have a spreadsheet, this is something to think about. Perfect. Okay. All right. Last thing we're going to cover here is called a custom GPT. So a custom GPT is a GPT that you create context for. So creating context. Let me answer this question real quick. So Janette's asking, does the web search become more current than the current cutoff date? Yes. So we talked about cutoff date earlier. When you ask it for the cutoff date, that gives you context to understand that if you ask based on your knowledge, give me this information. By adding the web search, you complement it with its knowledge plus the new information that I found on the web. That's why it's so important to understand contextually whether or not your query includes a web search or not. That's why I made a big deal about that, because that's a really important thing. So I'm going to click here where it says Explore GPTs. And then here on the top right, it says Create. So when I click on Create, you can create a custom GPT. So I'm going to call this one Small Business Tax Advisor. The purpose of this chatbot is to give my client advice, particularly based on IRS forms. And then instructions, I'm going to say, read the IRS forms and instructions that I uploaded to the custom GPT knowledge and give me your answers only based on that. Answer direct quotes and tell me which page number it comes from. Okay. So when you create a custom GPT, and you do have to be in the paid edition for this, you're going to upload documents. Okay. I'm going to turn off web research. I'm going to turn off all these things. Okay. I'm only going to turn on that data analysis. And let's say, for example, I happen to have this document here, the small business tax guide that contains, I don't know how many pages worth of stuff. Okay. And let's say I want to limit everything that ChatGPT tells me only to the information that's in this PDF. Okay. So again, the usefulness of a custom GPT is so you grab any piece of PDF and you upload it. You can do multiple PDFs and say, hey, only answer based on this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and upload this document. I'm going to click Upload Files, and I'll upload that document. There we go. And then I'm going to put here conversation starter is, what about small business taxes you would like to know? Question mark. So I like to create the conversation starter because it kind of allows the user that's using the custom GPT to know kind of what their starting point is. So once I'm done, I click on create, and I'm going to share this with everyone. And then I'm going to paste this in the chat. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to paste. I'm going to paste this link. Give me a second. Let's copy this link, paste this link in the chat. I'll also paste it in the slides. So we'll go here in the slides. Small business custom GPT based on IRS doc. Okay, so if you have the slides as a reference point, or if you're in the live chat, you can click on that link either way. So once we go into that chat, you will be able to access this just like I have. And I can click on this little conversation starter. What about business taxes you would like to know? And then ChatGPT will search the knowledge. It means it will actually read the document. And then based on that, it will go, okay, what kind of, it prompts you what questions you could be asking. Are you looking for information on deductions, filing requirements, tax credit, self-employment taxes, or something else? I can say, what information about deductions to a brand new small business I could give advice on? Whoops. I said Dyson. I can give advice on. Just fix that. Of course, the voice commands, right? It doesn't recognize that I have a strong accent. So sometimes it'll miss out on that. Okay, well, actually, even though I said I can give a Dyson, he understood that I meant advice on. So it's interesting how he sort of contextually understands that. So here we go. So a brand new business, wants to take advantage of these tax deductions based on publication 334. So here's your startup deduction. Here's home office deduction. Here's the section 179, everything else. And I can say, add a page number to every one of those points. So we'll go back and sort of rewrite the answer, but add a page number to each one. So here we go. So here's startup cost, page 32. And then we have home office, page 37. Business and equipment purchases, page 32. Business meals, page 36. Vehicle expenses, page 31. Right? So it's super cool. Super cool, especially when you upload your own documents and say, hey, give me a summary based on this. And then they made a mistake. It's just saying how to deduct Dyson perks. That's interesting. So again, that's the nice thing about the contextual, the custom GPT. This business advisor will only answer based on the document. So I can say, how does meals deduction work? Meals. Okay. And then again, only based on the document. So based on publication 334, page 36, here's how deduction works. There was a rule change in 2022. What's deductible? What's not deductible? How much can you deduct? So there's a lot of questions here about copyright, like who owns this information once you get it. Like no one owns this copyright. Like it's stuff that's built by the AI. It's information that was publicly available at some point. So they don't own it. You don't own it. Is there a chance that they're stealing copyright data from someone? Yeah, I guess there is one. But that's something you just have to, you got to work through. Okay. Again, yeah. So I think hopefully I covered a lot of ground. There's a lot of slides in the live slides for reference. One that I'm going to recommend is called the Perfect Prompt. So once you get a little bit more comfortable with ChatGPT, use this concept of making sure that you add all these points when creating a prompt, and you will see how much better your answers will be. If you get really, really good at that, you'll see how much better the answers would be. Again, my email is all the way in the bottom of the screen, hector@garciacpa.com. If there's something that wasn't clear, a question that wasn't answered, please email me. I'll do my best to get you an answer. My YouTube channel has a lot of content on AI. It goes way beyond this basic 90-minute course. And of course, if you want to come hang out with me, learn how to price with confidence, come to REFRAME 2025. I would love to see you there. With that being said, I'll leave it to CP Academy to finish up. Thank you, everybody. I hope you learned a lot. I hope that this starts a great journey. And I'll see you on the next webinar.